Hi everyone. It's nice to be with you just now. So this is part of the series that I'm offering on the blog at gailbrenner.com on fear. And some questions have come up on the blog, if you take a look at the comments, about meeting fear, because I talk a lot about meeting fear. And someone recently asked in the comments, how do you do that? What am I talking about when I talk about meeting fear? So let's step back a minute and take a look at what fear is. So it's really important to do this because fear is one of these underlying agitating experiences that takes away from our enjoyment of life, and it's at the root of a lot of psychological suffering. So I know that this suffering is not required, it's optional, so we can then investigate so that we can find our way through fear and realize that it's always possible to be at peace. So looking at fear, the experience of fear, what we see is that there's a story running through the mind and physical sensations. Fear is very physical. So when I ask people, how do you know you're afraid right now? Someone says they're afraid. What I always hear is that they are experiencing physical sensations. So jitteriness, vibration, contraction, agitation, something unsettling in the body that signifies fear. What's interesting about that is that these sensations often go unnoticed because we're very busy in our heads with the thing that we're afraid of. So worrying, wondering, doubting, going back and forth about things in our minds, spinning about what may or may not happen. So when all of that mental activity is happening, what's overlooked is that there are these sensations that underlie it. So part of the way through fear is, first of all, to realize that there's some sort of a story running. It may not be so obvious to you, but there's something there in the mind that's keeping those sensations running and keeping that experience of fear going. So when you can recognize those thoughts, it really helps, because what you see when you investigate them is that these thoughts aren't true. So across the board, the thoughts aren't true, they're not helpful, they're not serving you, they're certainly not serving your happiness. So what I do with the experience of fear, what I have done from studying this in depth for a very long time, is I immediately let go of the story. And what I mean by that is I really have gotten to the point where I do not believe one thought that has to do with fear. Now, sometimes fear is useful. That's true. You're ready to walk off into traffic and you see a car coming and you step back. So that's useful. But a lot of the worry and anxiety that permeates our lives, it's really unnecessary. So say, for example, that you're worried about having enough money for your retirement. You can plan, you can consult professionals, you can figure out how you're going to save money, and all of that can happen without worrying about it. So you can take action to solve problems, but fear does not have to be a part of it. And it's actually much more relaxed and maybe even more fruitful when fear doesn't get in the way. So when you find yourself worrying or somehow getting consumed by thoughts about fear, that would be an opportunity to recognize that that's what's happening and then just bring your attention away from it to say, I'm not interested in that story. because ultimately it's really not very interesting. You probably have heard it a zillion times anyway. So, immediately letting go of the story. And the story can be sneaky. It can sneak up on you and say, well, you really need to be concerned about this, or you need to worry about that, and you really don't. You need to be aware of what's going on in your life and be intelligent about how you deal with it, but you don't need to worry. It's extra. So, immediately when you're aware of the experience of fear, give no attention to the thoughts around it. And then when you do that, it leaves space for you to bring your attention down into your physical body. So then it's a matter of experiencing the physical sensations. And if you've been very lost in your mind around fear, you're going to notice a lot of physical sensation when you first start paying attention to it. It may sometimes take a while because some people are kind of numb to their bodies, so it might take a while for that sensation to be seen. But once you let go of the thinking part of fear, then you bring your attention to the physical sensations. And then it's very, very simple. You just allow them to be. You don't wonder what they're going to do. You don't try to make them go away. You don't try to lessen them. You don't get scared about them. You might start spinning the story again, and then you can again bring your attention down to your body, to the physical sensations. So it's not a problem if you start thinking, but that would be a signal to bring your attention down into your physical body. So let's try it right now. Just take a breath and close your eyes. And just settle for a moment in whatever seat you're sitting in. And let that be your one seat right now that you occupy. And then just begin to notice what physical sensations are appearing right now in your awareness. They could be anywhere in your body. It might be so many at one time you don't even know what to pay attention to first, and that's okay. So just open up the space of being aware and just notice what you notice. Very simple. And then your mind may come in and go, well, what am I supposed to do now? And what about that thing I'm supposed to remember to do? And notice that, let that go, and bring your attention again down into the physical sensations. So you might notice that as you are simply aware of the physical sensations, that it's hard to also think at the same time. So every time the thinking sneaks in, again, bring your attention down into the physical sensations. Just notice what you notice. That's it. And notice the attitude that you're bringing to this noticing. You're calm. You're quiet. You're neutral. You're not pushing for these sensations to go away. You're just allowing them to be. It's quite an accepting and loving way to be with yourself. You're not fighting or resisting or pushing or pulling. It's the simple being with what is. So see if you can make this space around the sensations very large, wider and wider. And you actually aren't making it wider, you're just noticing that it can be a very vast and open space. And in this space arise physical sensations. That's it. Very simple. So you are simply noticing the sensations. They come, they go, they might intensify, they might lessen. Doesn't matter. Finally, you're letting yourself be at peace with them. So stay with that as long as you want to, and do it as often as you want to. There was a time, as I wrote about in the last post, many times during the day I would feel fear. And I would just sit and let the sensations do what they do. So there's no outcome here. So it's not like then the sensations go away and you never feel afraid again. It's not like that. Because fear is actually inbuilt into the physical body, into our human bodies. And it's a survival strategy to feel fear and to go into fight or flight mode. So that's part of being human, of being in the physical body. So it's not a problem. It becomes a problem when we start thinking in a compulsive way about things. And then we become stressed, and then we're chronically fearful in our lives. That doesn't work. But fear is inbuilt in the body. So you recognize the story, you welcome the physical sensations, and that's it. It's just allowing yourself to be with what's true for you in the moment. It's a moment of peace. And these moments, over time, they add up. And you might find, as what happened to me, is eventually, from meeting these sensations, I one day woke up and realized that I hadn't been stressed in quite a long time. But each time of sitting and being with these sensations doesn't necessarily yield you anything, but what you do get is a beautiful moment of peace. And you're lovingly being with your experience by accepting it and not being at war with it. So that's really it. That is how to be with fear, how to be with the physical sensations of fear, recognizing the story, letting it go, just not believing it, not helpful, and then bringing your attention to the physical sensations and being so openly aware and available to just feel what's there. So say that you do this a few times, and then you say, which I often hear is, oh, it's not working. It's not about working or not working. When someone says to me, oh, it's not working, that means to me that they're expecting the fear to go away. If anything, expect fear to be around and recognize that you don't have to be ruled by it. It does not have to be in charge. So you can let the story go, be with the physical sensations, allow them to be in this loving, open space. And that's what I call working. It's working. Because you're in that moment aligning yourself with the truth of who you are, meaning that you're not being ruled by the fear, and you're allowing yourself simply to be in beautiful, aware, loving presence. So experiment with this, and I would love to hear how that goes for you. So please send me an email or even better, comment. There's some interesting discussions going on in the comments these days. So I'd love to hear how that goes for you. And really, I hope that you find this useful, because I know totally in my heart of hearts that you don't have to be ruled by fear, and you can absolutely find your way through it to peace. So again, lovely to be here with you today, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.